Hello, friends. Welcome to the EarthtonesGirl podcast. My name is Denise. You can find me on the web as EarthtonesGirl. I am most active on Instagram. I'm also on Ravelry. The podcast has a Ravelry group, which is the EarthtonesGirl podcast group, and there's also an email address, which is earthtonesgirl@gmail.com. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Today's Friday. It is January 24th, and this episode is the Vogue Knitting Live 2020 recap. I'm going to try my best to make this as concise as possible, but there's so many emotions tied into this past weekend. I don't think I can convey them all in a short video, but I'm going to try really, really hard. And my smile is extra large right now because I am still on a high from this weekend. I'm going to take you guys through it from start to finish. I was there for 4 days. Wow. Now that I'm saying it out loud. It started for me on Thursday evening. I went down for a teacher's meeting. Oh my God. And yes, let's just talk about the pink elephant in the room for just a second. I taught at Vogue Knitting Live this year, and the elation, the joy, the excitement, the nervousness, the anxiety, the downright freak out fear that I was feeling was so real and so wonderful and so motivating. Oh my gosh. Lots of hand gestures and excitement today. So we got there. I drove down into the city. I got there on Thursday, and I'm just rearranging some stuff. I was going to write up notes, but you can't write notes for an episode like this. I'm just going to talk and share and let it all out. We got there on Thursday and were given our official folders. And I walked into the room, and I'm not going to lie, I had a feeling like I wasn't in the right place. Like it was a joke and someone was going to tap me on the shoulder and say, surprise, this was just a joke. You really don't belong here. But honestly, that feeling lasted for about a minute. I got into the room and I sat down. I was one of the first ones there. It was really early. And another teacher just started talking to me. I don't remember her name. But she started talking to me and she's like, hey, so what are you teaching? And I said, well, I'm teaching for the first time and I only have one class. And she's like, oh, but that's amazing. And she was so excited for me. And so many of the teachers had multiple classes. They were doing 4, 5, 6 classes over the course of the 3 days. And I thought, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm only doing one. That I don't really count as a teacher then because I'm only doing one. And then I thought, you know what? Darn it. It does count because the amount of time and work that went into prepping for this class, it counts. Gosh darn it. So there. But I did that on purpose. I could have submitted proposals for more classes, but I chose to just start small. I know myself and I know that starting small and getting my feet wet and learning the ropes and what has to be done when, I knew that would work better for me. Going forward, fingers crossed, I'm invited to teach again next year. Then I will branch out, but I'm talking ahead. So I'm talking to this lovely lady and we're going on and she's talking about her classes and I just thought, oh my gosh, this is just incredible. And then I look up and in walks Marceline Smith, who is Hey Brown Berry, and Maria, who is Ninja Chickens. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm home. I am right where I'm supposed to be. And they were talking to some people making their way to their seats. And they finally walked over to me and I just gave them such a hug. And Mars has been such an anchor for me and a mentor for so long now. I say all the time, I probably wouldn't even be podcasting if it weren't for her. And she really has pushed me out of the box, out of my comfort zone, but in the best possible way, to branch out, to try new things, even though I'm nervous, even though I may be afraid. the results, the outcome can only be good. And so she's so right. She's so right. So she comes over and we hug, and we had just seen each other in October, and to see her again after not even seeing her for years before that, it was amazing. It was so great. And we sat there, and the coordinator for all of this, God love her. I don't know how these Vogue Knitting Live employees, staff, volunteers pull this off. This event is so huge, and it's huge in a different way than Rhinebeck. I was going to talk about that later, but I'll talk about it now. Rhinebeck is probably 3 times the number of people, maybe even 4 times the number of people, but it's in an open space. And if you want to go back and look at my Rhinebeck recap video, you'll see how huge the fairgrounds are. I mean, I don't want to say as far as the eye can see, but pretty darn close. It's just wide open space. It's fresh air. You're outside. Even the barns, you walk in one end of the barn and you walk right out the other end. There's no doors. It's wide open. You can see out the side. So it's got a lot. And yes, there are 3 or 4 buildings that are enclosed, but they're spacious, high ceilings, and you don't feel enclosed the way that you do at Vogue Knitting Live. And I know a lot of people didn't go this year, opted not to go this year because it's extremely claustrophobic. I am not going to lie. It is a very tight space. You're indoors. It's winter. Everybody's got their woolens on. They've got coats. You're literally elbow to elbow with people. You don't even know what the weather's like outside. And it's kind of remarkable how smoothly it's run. That's where I'm going with this. You're in such a confined space in this huge hotel in the middle of Times Square. So it's people on top of people on top of people, and it runs so smoothly. It's incredible. And all of the instruction that they gave us on Thursday was so precise and so concise and clean, and there really wasn't a lot of room for error. You showed up at your room. If you had AV equipment, you checked at this point. If you were picking up handouts or supplies, you picked them up at this point. You checked in at this point. It was great. And I mean, we got these folders, and it basically contained everything we needed to know. They even had a fire marshal come and talk to us. This is probably more information than you need, but it's just interesting to get the behind the scenes, I think. And the fire marshal came in and explained everything to us, and you really felt prepared. And what was also great, they did a round robin in the room and had us all introduce ourselves and say what we were going to be teaching. And I was probably a little bit past the halfway point in the room. And, I'm listening to everyone, and I'm just like, I'm in a room right now with Clara Parks and Franklin Habit and Mina Phillip and all of these, Lily Chin, and I know I'm forgetting a ton more people, Bristol Ivy, and all of these people in this room, and I'm going, oh my God, and I'm fangirling, but still trying to look really cool, like, yeah, okay, this is old hand. I do this all the time. No, I don't. I was so excited. And it was my turn to stand up and talk. And for those of you that have been watching the podcast for a long time, I get emotional. I'm a crier. I say it all the time. And I stood up. I said my thing, and I said, I'm so honored to be in this room with all of these incredible teachers and makers. And I said, I'm going to stop now before I start crying. And everyone chuckled, and Mars turned around and said, and she would do it too. And there was so much familiarity. Like we all already knew one another. And so many of them knew me from my podcast and my presence on Instagram. And just an amazing moment. So that was, I felt prepared after that. And I honestly feel like any nervousness that I was feeling walking into the room, not just about being in the room and meeting people, but about teaching the class, because this was Thursday, so I still had 2 days to go. And I was prepared. I had everything at home ready to go, packed and ready. But any nervousness that was lingering went right out the window. After that meeting, I felt calm. I felt prepared. I felt confident. And I said, you know what? I'm going to walk in and do my best. I have 20 people in this room to teach beginner sock knitting in 3 hours. Seems like a lot of time, but it's really, really not. But I went in feeling so positive, and it was great. But I'll talk about Saturday in a second. So just before the meeting wrapped up on Thursday, Mars stood up. And if you're not watching Mars's podcast, Hey Brownberry, or following her on Instagram, please pause this video right now and go over and have a look, subscribe. Please go and follow. She is such a unique spirit in this world, and calm and thoughtful. Oh gosh, unbelievably thoughtful and considerate of other people. It's so humbling to watch her. It makes you want to be a better person. Mars makes you want to be better and be the best that you can be. And she said to the room, to all of the veteran teachers, this was her second time teaching with Vogue. She had taught for the first time with Vogue in Columbus, Ohio. So just this past year. And she addressed everyone in the room and said, so all of the veteran teachers in the room now, I want you to do yourself and everybody a favor. Check up on the new teachers. Check up on each other. Even the teachers that have been doing it for 10 years, because this was the 10th anniversary of Vogue Knitting Live. Check up on each other. Poke your head into the room and say, hey, you doing okay? Everything all right? Do you need anything? Any supplies? Because that teacher may be having a moment where they need something from someone outside of the room, and you poke your head in at just the right moment. So she set the tone, as far as I was concerned, for the level of camaraderie and support and love that was the atmosphere for the weekend. And everyone in the room was like, oh my God, what an amazing idea. Yes, we will absolutely do that. Thank you, Mars. Thank you so much. And I'm sure people have the best of intentions, but that might not have been what they were thinking to do. And just to be prompted to do that was just, why didn't I think of that? That's fantastic. Yes, I will absolutely do that. So I felt comfortable. And, the morning of the class, I'm jumping ahead, but I'm also checking the clock as usual. The morning of the class, so many people were cheering me on and wishing me luck and saying, you've got this, you're going to be great. Just go in, you can do it. Yeah. So meeting's over on Thursday. I returned to reality. I'm back home. I am now mom again. And I dropped the kids off on Friday. I went down Friday morning, and Carolyn and I met. Actually, no, I'm lying. We took the train in together. So I drove to her house after dropping off the kids, and then we drove to the train station. We got on the train, and we're talking and swapping ideas, and just buzzing with excitement to get there. And we get there. We finally get to the hotel and get upstairs, and the lobby for the marquee is on the 8th floor. So we get upstairs, and there's 45 floors in this building, you guys. 45 floors. With glass elevators, and you can watch yourself ascend and descend. And that wasn't always working for Carolyn. And it's funny, she doesn't like heights, and I don't like confined spaces. So we complimented each other very, very well on this trip. But we get off the elevator, and not even 20 steps, there are the makers. There are the knitters, the crocheters. They're right there. Friends are standing there, and it was so wonderful to see them and connect with them, and the smiles and the hugs and the joy. Oh, it was just, there I go, because it was so genuine, and everybody was just so truly happy to see you, and I was so truly happy to see them, and you can't fake that. You can't make that up. And that kept happening over and over and over the weekend. Anybody that was attending that's watching this, I think would agree with me. There was just such joy in seeing one another, getting to hug each other, and like I said in my last episode, I'm giving out hugs, and if you see me, come and get a hug. And let me tell you, people held me to that, and it was wonderful. They're like, oh, okay, you said I could hug you. I'm coming in. And it was great. So that's how those smiles and faces, that's how the weekend started for us. How the actual event itself, the market and the teaching and the shopping and all of that started for us. And just fantastic. Fantastic. We got downtown about, I don't know, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 we got downtown. And so Carolyn and I had a little bit of time, and, we hung out in the room for a bit, and then we went downstairs and just kind of wandered around. And, again, you get off the elevator, the market itself is on the 5th and the 6th floor. So you have sort of a wide open space to meander and see people and chat, and then you walk into the marketplace. And I'll put some video in here of that for you, just so you can see the layout. And there's an amazing view from the set. So we basically have 3 floors for the event itself: the 5th, 6th, and 7th floor. The 7th floor is, there was a little cafe set up for us there. And you also, again, cafe hangout space. You could kind of sit up there, floors on the floor, tables and chairs to just knit and mingle. And you also have a great balcony view. You can see down into the market on the 6th floor. Just breathtaking. The scope of it, the size of it. Again, it's not the same size. It's nowhere near the size of Rhinebeck, but it's still so huge to have all of this market and all of these vendors there and available to you. It's just amazing. And they are packed in there. I mean, they're using every inch of space in there to really get as many people in as possible. And they also had, oh dear, I don't remember what it was called, but they had a small business area set up on one of the floors. I think it was the 5th floor, for smaller vendors. So you may not be as big as Stephen B or Do You Knit or Knitty City that had full, sometimes even double booths to display their stuff, but they still provided you with a smaller space. A lot of people shared space with other dyers, other makers, other vendors. And then there was this other business area, this kind of small business area for even smaller makers. The amount of work that Vogue Knitting put into making this event as inclusive and diverse as possible was really breathtaking. They did an outstanding job. I mean, the level of diversity at this event it blew me away. It really did blow me away. I've been attending Vogue Knitting Live since it was at the Hilton when it first started, and it was much, much smaller. The classrooms were in the actual guest rooms. So you were taking a sock knitting class like in a bedroom pretty much. And it worked and it was amazing. But that's how much it's grown now to be in this space in the Marriott Marquis. And it has changed. To be as conservative in my language as possible, it really has changed. I mean, the teachers, the diversity among the teachers, among the vendors, among the students, among the attendees, just general people that weren't even taking classes that just came down to attend the market. It was mind-blowing. It really was mind-blowing. People felt comfortable. I know that I did. And I know that a lot of people felt, I'm sure there were different experiences over the weekend. I'm speaking from my experience and what I saw. People seemed very, very comfortable. They seemed welcome. They seemed, what's the word? Like they knew they were invited there. They knew that people were grateful to have them there. No matter what capacity you were there in, people were just happy that you were there. And seeing one another, again, that picture that I first showed of us, of all of us meeting in the lobby on the first day, that continued. It continued. I mean, everywhere you went, it was people hugging and pictures and stopping to talk. And again, because it's such a small space, unfortunately, stopping in the middle of an aisle wasn't always that convenient for everybody coming up behind you, but nobody really seemed to care. It didn't seem to bother anybody. I know of one experience in particular. One friend of mine got into a little teeny tussle with somebody over looking at things in a booth, but You know who you are if you're watching. And, but again, it didn't last long. It really didn't last long. And the Relate event to me, one just said, okay, look, just do what you have to do. I'll wait until you're finished. And again, nobody wanted, there wasn't, nothing was combative. Nobody wanted to argue. Nobody wanted to get into it with anybody. There was just such love in the room and support in the room, and supporting the vendors, supporting the makers and the dyers and everything. I mean, there was a dyer there, Tara. Hi, Tara, if you're watching. She is Mitchell SC Fiber Arts, and it was her first time vending. And Tara was so excited to be there and astonished that she was there. And I was so happy to see her. I've known her for a very long time. She was one of my first swap partners on Instagram. We were paired up years ago, and we've been corresponding and friends ever since. And to finally see her in person and to, again, bring her in for that hug, I didn't let go for a while. And that even felt comfortable too. That's the other thing. These hugs felt comfortable. You know, when you meet a stranger, or not a stranger, but you meet somebody for the first time, and, you know, they might invite you in for a hug and you know exactly how many beats before you let go. These kind of just continued, you know, and like the conversation's almost, you're hugging somebody and then you start talking. So you're kind of talking into each other's ear, and you're talking and you pull back and you laugh, or you make eye contact and you continue the hug. And oh, that happened so many times over the weekend. And we were celebrating each other. We were really rooting for each other, whether you were teaching for the first time or vending for the first time, or just even attending the event for the first time. We were cheering each other on. There was so much of that. And if you watch Gigi, who's Gigi Made It, please go and check out. She just released her Vogue Knitting Live recap video too. That's on her YouTube channel, and you can go to her Instagram feed. Her Instagram feed and her Insta story feed are just beautiful. I mean, people, Della, who is Lolo Bean Yarns, she was vending there, and oh my gosh, I think it was actually her first time vending at Vogue, and wow, Gigi was in her booth the entire weekend. Her daughter Shelby was there as well. And there was so much support and so much love in that space. I can't even begin to tell you. It was just incredible to watch. And Gigi put it out there like, okay, guys, this is where I'm going to be. So there's no excuses. If you can't find me, then you're not listening and you're not watching this, because this is where I'm going to be from Friday to Sunday. And that's where she was. And I made my way over there and I found her. And there's nothing like a Gigi hug. I now call her Mama G for a very good reason. I'll tell you about that in a second. And there's nothing like a Gigi hug. She makes you feel so loved, so welcome. And it's a big mama bear hug. Like she's got you. You know, when you're hugged by her, she's holding on to you. She's got you. She's picking you up if that's what you need. She's lifting you up, keeping you up. Whatever you need, you can get it. It's transferred from her to you, you to her in that hug. And I am so grateful to be able to call her my friend. I can call a lot of people over this past weekend my friends, and that is a gift. It is a gift, and I'm so grateful for it. So that was Friday. All of that was Friday. And then Saturday morning, now today's the day, we're in Saturday. Got up that morning. And the other thing that was happening this weekend, I decided to stay in the moment. I was not, unlike Rhinebeck in October, I was documenting almost every minute of Rhinebeck. Okay, everybody, I'm up. I'm in the car. I've got my tea. I'm ready to go. Okay, just arrived at the hotel. That was play by play. This was very different. This was me staying in the moment and really connecting with people, really talking to people. I feel like I missed out. Not missed out. No. I opted again to stay in the moment, and there were times when pictures weren't taken. Would I have liked to take certain pictures or record certain things? In hindsight, probably, but It's not a giant regret. It's really, really not. I had so much fun just staying in the moment. Not everything has to be documented. And many of us choose to do that. I just chose not to. And I did it for two reasons. The vibe of the weekend was really different. Amazing, but different. And I wanted, again, to stay in that and relish it and experience it without whipping the camera out all the time. And my mind was on my class. I felt calm. I felt confident. Speaking of confidence, I'm going to talk about something else in a second. I felt very calm. I felt very confident, but I really wanted to just be aware of what was going on around me. Does that make sense? I really, really did. And I was kind of rehearsing things in my mind and double checking off little checklists and things like that in my mind. And I just wasn't thinking about recording. I wasn't thinking of the camera. And I know there's so many people that were recording and live streaming and everything else. I'm like, you know what? Just, you'll get it from them. You'll get what they're doing. Go take a look at them. I'm just going to do this a little different. And it made such a difference for me. I felt so calm and comfortable the whole weekend. And so anyway, it's Saturday morning. We get up. Carolyn had a class that morning, so I had some time alone. I ordered room service, which I never ever do, and that felt like such a treat. So I ordered room service. I sat in my pink pajamas. Carolyn and I also, of course, we wore matching knitting themed pajamas, of course, and I stayed over. I don't know if I said that. I stayed over Friday night into Saturday. So she's gone. I'm having my breakfast. I'm watching a little Good Morning America on my phone. I'm just kind of chilling out. I wasn't thinking about anything particular, just kind of relaxing, and got dressed. And I thought, okay, it's about 9 o'clock, maybe 9:30. We had a plan to meet later in the morning. And I said, I really want to go downstairs and check out my room. And that's what I did. I all of my equipment was upstairs, and we had an 11 o'clock checkout. So I really had to make sure that I was organized with what I was going to leave, at the front desk, and what I was going to, that I had all of my equipment and everything packed to take to the room. But I wanted to see the room first. So I go downstairs, I find the room. And at first I couldn't even find the room. And I'm thinking, yay, one more reason to be prepared and go and explore and find it now. So I'm not rushing and anxious later. Finally found the room. I was teaching on the 7th floor in the Gotham room, and to see my name on the little plaque outside of the room just gave me goosebumps, you guys. It really did. And I've been knitting for a long time and teaching for a long time. And then there was a long hiatus in my teaching, and I'm back to it now. And I feel like, this has been so worth it. All of the time and the energy and the work that it took to get to this point, just seeing my name there was just, it was so worth it. So I go in, I check everything out, figure out where my outlets are and where I can plug everything in. And the setup was so much better than I even thought. So I go back, I meet Carolyn, and we hit the market and we're shopping. And my friend Eric, who is EP Lutz on Instagram, and he's the Sticks and Strings podcast on YouTube. He hasn't podcasted in a little while, but I know his older episodes are there if you want to go and check him out. He had texted me that he was going to try to make it in, and he literally flew in for the day. I was so, so, so happy to see him. He flew in Saturday morning. He was supposed to leave Saturday night, but because of weather and everything, he got delayed, so he left on Sunday. But so I met up with him, and it was hugs, and he's like, okay, are you hydrated? Are you calm? And honestly, Carolyn was, let me finish talking about Eric, and then I'm going to talk about Carolyn. So, he was like, what do you need to do? Let me know what you need to do. I said, I'm going to go back upstairs to the room, get my stuff together, check out. I will meet up with you later. He was like, sure, no problem. You're good. I said, yep, I'm good. And so Carolyn and I went upstairs to the room and sorted ourselves out. And let's talk about Carolyn Bloom, who is Bloom Handmade Studio on Instagram. Carolyn is, if you looked up true friend in the dictionary, there would be a picture of Carolyn. Like, she was the epitome of a friend this past weekend. She really, really was. And she took care of me. She made sure I went to bed early. She made sure I was hydrated. She's like, okay, go refill your water bottle. Make sure you have a water bottle. Go refill it. Okay, here's some snacks for you. Have you had a snack? Are you doing okay? Because she knows I can get a little fuzzy when I'm hungry. And she stayed on top of me the whole time. She signed up for the class. She took the class. I'm just going to out her right now. Carolyn does not even like sock knitting. She doesn't even like it. She knows how to do it and she does it very well, but it is not her thing to do. And she sat in that class and my girl knit a sock and she was helping people around her and pitched in. She handed out, she put all of the outlines on the tables for me. She made sure all the equipment was, she double checked, made sure everything was set up properly. Again, why don't you go to the loo now, to the restroom now, make sure you're okay and you're physically comfortable, and just watching out for me. And she sat right in the front and I feel like I had an anchor in the room to just kind of glance over at, and I get a little wink or a little nod or something, or a little thumbs up over her knitting, and it was really grounding and helpful and anchoring to see her there, to have that support in the room. And we checked out, everything was done, we were set up, and I'm just kind of, hanging out in the room really quiet. And it's also amazing. You also know the sign of a true friend is when you don't have to be talking. When the silence is comfortable, that's the real deal right there. That is the real deal. And she just sort of let me get into my head in the room. And I was watching the clock. The class started at 2 and it was about 1:45, and people started trickling in. And I had to do attendance, and I was determined to use every minute of the class for teaching time. So as people were coming in, I was taking attendance, I was handing them their surveys, making sure they had their outline, they were comfortable in the room. And we started right at 2:00, and I was teaching, they were learning. People were happy. There were some frustrated moments, I'm not gonna lie, on their end, with trying to get the hang of it. Using the AV equipment the way that I did was really helpful, as opposed to trying to get to person to show them the one thing. I said, okay, everybody, look up at the screen. Here it is. They're like, oh, whew, okay, now I got it. And I'm telling you, I rehearsed this at length, and it really went better than I could have expected. And forgive me in this moment I don't want to sound like I'm patting myself on the back, and I'm trying really hard not to. I'm just excited and really proud of the work that went on in that room. On the part of the students, I felt really prepared. It was a good afternoon. It was more than a good afternoon. It was really, really great. It was great. And I know people reached out to me and said they were a little frustrated that the class filled up so quickly. Some people hadn't heard of it until it was already full. They didn't even know they had the option to sign up. So yeah, and I did feel badly about that. That was sort of beyond my control. That was really Vogue Knitting. And I've talked about doing an online class. There was a video that was supposed to have gone out before this video, been published before this video, and I just needed to focus on this, you guys, and it paid off, and I'm so, so happy. But more information's coming on that later, so I have not dropped the ball, trust me. But got through the 3 hours, had 1 or 2 moments with some other students being frustrated about other things, smoothed that over. I think people felt heard in the class. People felt like I was aware of what was going on regarding their knitting and making, and everything else going on in the room, going on even in the hallway, because there was other classes literally right next door, so things were a little bit loud and sometimes they couldn't hear me, but it all worked out. It was great. And when it was over, I walked the last person out of the room. Eric had come in at that point. It was a little after 5, maybe quarter after 5. And Carolyn was still in the room. Eric was in the room. He'd come over to meet me. And I walked the last person out. And I turned, I walked back in the room, flopped down in a chair, and just burst into tears. And it was kind of a moment of like an ugly cry, and it was relief. It was mental exhaustion. It was fatigue. It was everything in that moment. And again, I'm so grateful for my friends being there that I could show this level of vulnerability in front of and be comfortable enough to be myself. And, you know, Carolyn rubbed my back and she's like, just tell us what you need. What do you need? And I was like, I'm honestly great. I looked up because my face was down in my hands, and I looked up and I was like, oh my God, this is just relief. I said, I feel amazing. And I was tired mentally, but I also felt really recharged. I felt so energized because months of prepping and planning were now done. Oh my God. I could breathe now, and woohoo! It was good. It was really, really good. Yeah. Carolyn helped me tidy up a little afterward, and we packed up our stuff, and she was getting ready to go. She took off. We said our goodbyes. She went back home to her family because she had gotten some really great news regarding her family that day. So I know she wanted to take off, and Eric and I went and we sat in this little like bar area on the 8th floor, and we just had a drink together, and we talked a little bit about the class, and then we started talking about Star Wars and The Mandalorian and Disney and just random stuff. We were just two friends, two makers sitting, reconnecting. We hadn't seen each other in a while, and it was wonderful. And it was exactly what I needed. I sat there with a glass of wine. I wasn't driving home. I knew I was going to get a ride home, either an Uber or a taxi or whatever. And I just didn't worry. I needed that little time to decompress before, again, returning to reality and being mom. And it was lovely. And then he and I parted, and I got in a cab. And I didn't care how much it was going to cost me. I was not about to try to juggle the train with all of my bags and everything else. And I just put my head back in the cab and just breathed. I just breathed. And I went home and wasn't really planning on going back. I mean, I wasn't. I was sort of on the fence about going back on Sunday, and Mars was teaching. She was giving a lecture on the love language of making. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go in the morning. I'm just going to go in the morning and see her. And there was a fashion show. There was a fashion show on Friday evening. That was the other thing. Friday evening? Yes. On Friday evening that we went to see, and that was hosted by Brooklyn Boy Knits. Oh my gosh. I'll put some pictures of that in here. That fashion show was epic. It was what many people have wished for and wanted to see at Vogue Knitting for so long, and boom, there it was. The couture gowns, the knits, the crochets were just mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, the amount of talent on that stage and in that room was just, I don't have any words to describe it. I really, really don't. And there was another fashion show on Sunday afternoon. So Mars's lecture was from 11 to 12, and we all kind of just hung out for a little bit. And then there was a fashion show. We walked the market together a little bit more. And that was, again, even more relaxed because now it's Sunday, and a lot of people, there may be, I don't want to say half, but maybe even as much as half the number of people there on a Sunday. It's a very different vibe. It's very chill. It's really relaxed. You can actually walk up and down the aisles and go into the booths a lot more comfortably. I'm not going to lie. Is there a lot that's sold out by that point? Yes. But if you're not necessarily looking for something specific and you just want to browse and still be in the market, Sunday is definitely the day to go. It was wonderful. And so as we're walking through the market before the fashion show, Marston Maria was also there, and all of us were just wandering around. And I'm walking out of a booth. I had to get a needle and a set of needles, and I turn, and a lot of meetings with people, unless you've planned them, were by chance. So you're just hoping to run into people, but you can't possibly coordinate with as many people as you want to see. It's almost impossible to coordinate with everybody. So you're just hoping that you run into people. And as I turned, I paid for my needle. And as I turned, there is Kara, who is January 1. And the look on her face, the look on my face was, oh my God, there you are. And she grabs me in for, again, one of those bone-crushing hugs. And she pulls back, still holding on. She pulls back to look at me, and she's like, so how'd it go? And I said, I did it. It's over. I'm finished. And she was like, woohoo. And she pulled me back in again. And there was so much love and celebration in that hug. Kara, if you're watching, thank you again, my friend. Thank you so much for your constant, endless support. You're amazing. Thank you. It was great. It was great, you guys. It was great. And which leads me to why I now call Gigi Mama G. I got a message on Saturday after it was over. I looked at the timings. It was maybe 6ish, I'd say, somewhere around there. And there was a message from her in a message on Instagram, a direct message on Instagram, and all it said was, how did it go? And in that moment, she was a mother. She was a concerned mom checking up on one of her children, finding out how they did. And when I saw her, I texted back, I did it, exclamation point. And the joy in her response and seeing her the next day, that hug when Gigi pulled me in was amazing. It was really amazing. And with the utmost respect, I'm holding on to her, and I looked at Shelby and I said, do you mind if I call your mother Mama G from now on? And she's like, have at it. She's like, whatever makes you happy. And she's now Mama G. And Gigi, if you are watching, you have no idea how much your checking up on me meant to me. Thank you. And I said this to Carolyn. I'm saying this to Gigi. I've said this to so many people, to Eric. Thank you seems like such an inadequate phrase. In my mind, it seems like such an inadequate phrase, but everyone that I say that to says the same thing to me. It's enough. It's enough. And people, don't forget, this is a message to you all watching right now. It is so important to just say thank you and acknowledge when people are there for you. Don't take it for granted. Don't for a minute take it for granted. And I don't take any of my friends in the making world, any of my friends outside of the making world, my family, my husband, my kids, they were all so excited. My husband texted me and he's like, question mark? Like, ooh, how's it going? And I called him and he heard it in my voice and he was so happy for me. And it was great. So Gigi, thank you again. Carolyn, thank you. Eric, thank you. Kara, thank you. To everyone, Jeanette, Sloan, to CC, Creative CC, CC Nelson, Cecilia Nelson. I had to run through all of the names before I got to her real name. To everyone, I forgive me if I'm forgetting anyone. Thank you so much to everyone who cheered me on. Thank you for supporting me, for letting me just talk and go on and on and on about things. Thank you so much for letting me rehearse this in my head, rehearse this out loud. Just thank you. And to all of the makers that attended this weekend that I got a chance to meet. I am so, so grateful that I got to see you. And to those that I didn't get to see, there will be other events that I will be attending. We will catch up with each other, and I will meet more of you one day. I look forward to that day. Sunday when I left, Mars and Maria were going to catch a train. They were headed where they were headed. We said our goodbyes. We gave each other hugs, looked each other in the eye. We were so grateful for that time. And it's the first time I actually got to spend time with Maria, Maria, I love you. You're amazing. And we are the same height, Maria and I. We're the short ones. And it's so amazing to be hugged by these tall people that kind of forget how short you are and they kind of bend you backwards. So, Maria, honey, I get it. I totally get it. So I said goodbye to the market. I said goodbye to my friends, and I had given Carolyn and a friend a ride in that Sunday morning, but they were off. They were doing their own thing, and that was also wonderful too. I'm kind of sort of out of sequence now. I'm sorry, but I did get to see Carolyn Sunday morning. We all drove back into the city together, and sort of recapping and talking some more in the car ride was also amazing. And then Sunday afternoon, I didn't talk about the fashion show. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to wrap it up. So the fashion show was by Nassat Nation. I will actually put his name down here because I don't want to try to pronounce it and ruin it. But he did, his fashion show was Jack's Jackets, and they were crocheted jackets, crocheted boots. I know how to crochet, but I wouldn't call myself a good crocheter at all. I find it quite baffling, actually, to crochet garments. It's just, I don't know how to do it, but I have the humblest respect for people that do, and Jack's Jackets were outstanding. This man is from Dominica, and he is just, oh my gosh, the talent just blew me away. His talent, his humbleness, his kindness, his soft voice, his presence were just, and again, he's someone that I've seen on Instagram so many times, and we finally got to connect. And he asked me where I was from, or I said I was from Barbados, and he said, "Oh, Bim, you're from Bim." And that's another name for the island that a lot of people not from the island don't know. And there was our little connection in that moment, and he was just the nicest, kindest person. So humble, so wonderful. And congratulations on your show. If you're watching, it was really outstanding. His models were beautiful. His garments were beautiful. Just, again, more success, more diversity, more inclusion. It was wonderful, you guys. It was an outstanding weekend. I could say the word outstanding and amazing over and over and over and over, but I really do mean it, because I don't have enough words to really describe how fantastic it was. I really do hope going forward, many of you get a chance to go. Don't let anything intimidate you from going, whether it's the weather or the crowds or the tight space. It's definitely it's almost like Times Square. Like going to Times Square on New Year's Eve, it is definitely something you should experience at least once. And I know some people had some reservations because of the crowds and everything. I would give it a try, because I've got some crowd issues myself sometimes, but again, it's really worth it. Come on a Sunday. It's outstanding, you guys. It really was. It was an amazing weekend. Thank you to everyone who attended. I am so grateful to Vogue Knitting Live. Thank you for having me. And I will see you all again next year. I can't wait for next year and see where this year takes us as makers, where the road leads, where the journey leads. I can't wait. Thank you so much for joining me here today, for watching this. Thank you. Thank you all so much. You guys are the best ever. I appreciate you all of my subscribers so much. Thank you so much. yeah, and I will put a little bit of footage in here at the end of just a couple of things that I bought. I really didn't buy very much. And thank you for watching. I know this was just a lot of me kind of chatting, but I hope you didn't mind the format. Thank you. Thanks for watching, you guys. I will see you all again very, very, very soon. Bye, everyone.